Hey guys, Sean here again. Welcome back to day 8 of the Sit and Go Trainer, and today we're talking about table position. So let's just recap what we talked about yesterday, basically the different hand groups, and you need to get a general idea of the different tier 1, tier 2, remember, didn't need to memorize all those groups and what hands are in there, but get a general idea of your top hands, your middle hands, and then your weaker hands there. So today, why is table position so important? If you've been around poker for a bit, you've probably heard the term position is key, position is everything. Basically, the game of poker can be very, very difficult, but what makes it easier is when you're by position, what it means is if you're the one that's closest to the dealer button, or you're the one that actually gets to act last. If you get to make your decisions after everyone else has made their decisions before you, it makes your decisions a lot easier, and it opens up a lot more opportunities. If you want to bluff at something, if you want to do a semi-bluff, and or just float behind someone, these are all different sort of concepts that we're going to cover. But basically, when you've seen what your opponents have already done, it makes your decisions down the road a lot easier as opposed to beforehand. So let's just look at some of the different decisions at the different positions at the table, if you will. There's under the gun, which is also known as UTG, which is basically if you we're going to go to a poker table in a second to talk about this, but under the gun is basically the first position right after the blind. So he's the first guy to make a decision, and it's the toughest position to actually have to play from. So that's why you need stronger starting hands when you play from that position. The button is basically the dealer button, and having that position means you'll be able to act last every step of the way, every different street on the flop, turn, and river if you're on the button. The cutoff is one off the button, basically right next to the button, and a lot of times if you're raising for that position, you can get the button to fold and actually giving you the button there. Hijack is one over even from the cutoff, and then we have the blinds and the blinds, the big and the small blind there. So we're going to have a look at that. So let's look at an example of a different position, and so let's just go over to the table. So under the gun here, like for example in this scenario here, the dealer button is right here. Here's your small blind, here's your big blind. Under the gun position is right here. Okay, and then these are considered sort of early to mid positions. Here's your button. Here's your cutoff that I told you, one over from the dealer button, and here's your hijack position. This is where you want us to be making a lot more raises and playing from over here. You're going to play a lot less hands in these positions over here, and a lot more in these spots here, because all these people have to act before you. So it's much easier for you to make your decisions here. So I just wanted to show you a couple examples from a student of mine, a couple students of mine actually, that sent in some hand histories for my coaching services. And this is a scenario where position is very, very important. If you can play the majority of your hands when you're going to act after your opponents, you're going to see it makes your decisions a lot easier at the table. So let's look at this scenario here. Our player here has an ace-jack under the so we're going to stop it here. He's got an ace-jack in the small blind. Now, an ace-jack is a decent hand. A lot of people like to play this hand here, but we have a limper here. He just called the big blind, so he limps into here, and then this guy actually makes a raise. Whenever this happens, this scenario happens, your ace-jack is not as strong a hand as you think it is, and what's going to happen is if he is to make this call here, he's going to have to act the whole time first throughout this hand, which is going to be very, very difficult here. So what my suggestion here, and he actually ends up going to do that, is actually a fold here because he doesn't have position here. This just shows you sort of how, yes, an ace-jack is a playable hand, but just not in this particular scenario. See, now let's just go back here. Now we don't know what our opponent, what the players had here, but we notice that this guy limped in for 20. This guy made a raise up to 120, and he called an extra 100 out of position. The only problem with making this play here is that whatever cards come out here, he's going to have to be the first one acting first. So this guy has a big advantage over here. So this is not a very strong play by this guy. You should not fall into this sort of trap by calling sort of out of position. Calling a guy's raise out of position is probably the worst thing you can probably do in poker. Just by not doing that, you're already going to be ahead of your competition if you avoid all those scenarios like that. So he calls. I think he actually ends up, he must have hit it. This guy does a continuation bet, and this guy does a min raise, and he takes it. I think he bets it out on the river or something like that. But it's not important there. We're just really talking about position, and this is a very good fold by this player over here, where a lot of people might not make that fold with the ace jack in that situation, but it definitely needs to be folded in that spot. So let's look at the next hand here. We're going to talk about position here. Here's a perfect example of how calling out of position and makes your hand a lot more difficult to play. Here's my student here. He gets a raise off the dealer button. He could have anything. Obviously the hand ranges are, first of all, it's only four-handed at the table, and his hand ranges could be a lot wider than anything. His ace-10 might be good, but the problem is he chose to, which is kind of a mistake here. If you want to play this hand against a guy off the button, you want to be coming in for a raise to try to take it down there so you don't have to play the hand out of position, having to act first. In this situation, he actually chose to call. So what happens in this situation is, first, he doesn't know what his opponent's hand is here, so he didn't really define his hand, and he's going to have to act first. And 2 out of 3 times, you're not going to connect with the flop, so this is going to be a very difficult hand to play. If this hand doesn't come ace high or 10 high or something like that, he's going to be in a very, very tough spot here. So I really didn't like the way he had played this hand, and I did mention that to him in my coaching session with him. So he came out here. He saw, what I did like though is that he saw a board of low cards, thinking that maybe if this guy has 2 high cards, he could take it down here. He did take a shot at it with 125. This guy came over the top, and obviously he has to let his hand go. But basically, the way the hand was played, he wasted 125 on this sort of bluff, as well as wasted another 90 over here. So about 200 and something chips wasted on this hand because he called out of position. The way this hand should have been played, because he knew he was going to be out of position, is either raise it pre-flop so that maybe he can take down the pot there and not have to see a flop out of position, or actually just end up folding the hand and moving on. So that's it. Shows you sort of the position at the table. That's the example there, and that's it for today. So basically, for your homework for today, learn the different positions at the table, and remember, closer to the button equals easier to play your hands. You're going to want to keep that in mind when you actually are playing your sit and goes. Try to stay away from playing a lot of hands when you know people are going to be playing after you there. So that's it for today. Tomorrow's lesson, we're going to go raising versus calling and why your cards really don't matter. So that's going to be a great lesson. Make sure you come back for that one, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.